The junkyard floated in the darkness of space like a metal graveyard. Broken ships, dead engines, and forgotten machines drifted slowly around a small moon called Callan 7. Nobody wanted this place. Nobody came here unless they had nowhere else to go. Taiho had been living here for 3 years. He woke up every morning in his small shelter made from old ship parts. The walls were thin. The air recycler made strange noises. But it was home. It was the only home he had left. Taiho was 34 years old. He had dark hair that he cut himself, and hands covered in small scars from years of working with machines. Back on Earth, he had been a famous engineer. He had designed a new type of engine that could change everything. But a powerful company wanted to steal his work. When he refused to give it to them, they made sure he could never work again. They took his license. They took his reputation. They called him a criminal. So he ran. He ran all the way to the edge of known space, to this floating pile of garbage that nobody cared about. His sister Yuna had followed him. She was 5 years younger, with short hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She worked with communication systems and could make any broken radio talk again. She had a good life on Earth. She gave it up to stay with her brother. "You could have stayed," Taiho told her once, "and let you die alone in a junkyard?" She said, "Who would make sure you eat?" That was Yuna, always practical, always loyal. The galaxy was a big place, filled with thousands of alien species. They had faster ships, better technology, and longer lives. To them, humans were nothing special. The Galactic Consortium, the government that controlled most of known space, had a rating system for species. Humans were Class D. It meant primitive. It meant unimportant. It meant nobody needed to care what happened to them. Taiho and Yuna survived by fixing things. Alien merchants would sometimes stop at Callan 7 looking for cheap parts. Taiho would repair their broken equipment, and they would pay him with food, fuel, and materials. It was not a great life, but it was a life. One morning, Taiho was digging through a new pile of scrap that had been dumped the night before. He was looking for copper wire. What he found was something else entirely. It was a ship, or what was left of one. The design was strange. The metal was a color he had never seen before, something between silver and purple. The shape was smooth and elegant, like it had been grown rather than built. Most of it was destroyed, crushed and burned by whatever had killed it long ago. But the center section was still intact. Taiho climbed inside through a hole in the hull. The interior was dark. His flashlight showed walls covered in symbols he could not read. Everything was covered in dust. Nobody had been inside this ship for a very long time. Then he found the engine room. Even broken and silent, Taiho could see it was beautiful. The engine was small, much smaller than it should be for a ship this size. The design made no sense to him at first. Where were the fuel tanks? Where were the cooling systems? Where was everything that engines needed to work? He spent 3 days studying it. He did not sleep much. Yuna brought him food and he forgot to eat it. Something about this engine called to him. It was a puzzle, and Taiho had always loved puzzles. On the 4th day, a merchant named Bora stopped at the junkyard. She was a pilot and smuggler who ran supply routes to the outer systems. She was tall, with tired eyes and a voice that sounded like she had seen too much. "What are you looking at?" she asked, finding Taiho sitting in front of the strange ship. "Valori," he said. "This is a Valori ship." Bora went quiet. Everyone knew about the Valori. They had been the most advanced species in the galaxy, thousands of years ago. Their technology was so far ahead that even now, nobody could understand it. Then, one day, they simply disappeared. All of them. No war. No disaster. They were just gone. Every engineer in the galaxy has tried to make Valori technology work, Bora said. They all failed. The best minds from 100 species. What makes you think you can do what they could not? Taiho did not answer right away. He was staring at the engine, turning something over in his mind. They were all trying to add power, he finally said. More fuel. Bigger reactors. They thought Valori technology needed more to work. He stood up, brushing dust from his clothes. But they were wrong. The Valori did not build for power. They built for efficiency. This engine does not need more. It needs less. Bora looked at him like he was crazy. Maybe he was. That night, Taiho told Yuna his plan. She listened without interrupting, which was unusual for her. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. You want to rebuild an alien ship that nobody has been able to fix for 1,000 years, she said. Using junk. In a garbage dump. While we are poor, alone, and forgotten by everyone. Yes, Taiho said. Yuna nodded slowly. How long will it take? Taiho smiled. It was the first time he had smiled in months. Give me 6 months. Yuna sighed. But she was smiling too. Then I guess I better find us more food. Outside their shelter, the junkyard drifted silently in the darkness. Somewhere in that floating sea of broken things, an impossible ship was waiting to fly again. And one human engineer was crazy enough to try. The work began the next morning. Taiho woke before the artificial sunrise. He ate a small breakfast and walked to the Valori ship while Yuna was still sleeping. The ship sat in the junkyard like a sleeping giant, waiting for someone to wake it up. He started by cleaning. Days of careful work, removing dust and debris from systems that had been silent for centuries. He mapped every wire, every circuit, every strange piece of technology he did not understand. He filled notebooks with drawings and questions. The first problem was materials. The Valori used metals and compounds that did not exist in the junkyard. Taiho needed to find alternatives. Things that worked the same way but could be found in broken ships and discarded machines. He began trading more aggressively. When alien merchants came to Kellen 7, Taiho offered his repair services for specific parts. Not payment. Parts. A cooling unit from a Marvani freighter. Power cables from a Keleth transport. Sensor arrays from ships whose names he could not pronounce. The merchants thought he was strange, but they paid what he asked because Taiho could fix anything. The human is building something, they whispered to each other. Something from Valori wreckage. The rumor spread. Within 2 months, ships were coming to Callan 7 just to look. Alien engineers wanted to see the crazy human who thought he could do what the greatest minds in the galaxy could not. They laughed at him. They took pictures of his junk pile workshop and shared them on galactic networks. Taiho did not care. He kept working. 3 months into the project, a small ship crashed near the junkyard. It was not a merchant. It was a fugitive. Her name was Gio. She was a xenobiologist, a scientist who studied alien life and history. She had been working for a consortium university, researching the Valori disappearance. What she found got her in trouble. They did not die, she told Taiho and Yuna, sitting in their small shelter with a bandage on her head from the crash. The Valori were not destroyed. They ascended. They evolved beyond physical form. And before they left, they placed tests across the galaxy. Tests? Yuna asked. Ships like the one you found, Gio said, looking at Taiho. They left their technology behind on purpose, to see which species were worthy of inheriting it. But there's a condition. The technology only responds to those who understand it. Truly understand it. Not just use it. Understand why it works. And nobody has passed the test, Taiho said quietly. Nobody, Gio confirmed. Until maybe now. Geo stayed. She had nowhere else to go, and Taiho needed her knowledge of Valori history. She helped him understand the symbols on the ship walls. She translated ancient texts that explained the philosophy behind Valori engineering. The Valori believed in harmony. They did not fight against nature. They worked with it. Their engines did not burn fuel to create thrust. They bent space itself, sliding through the universe like a fish through water. It required almost no energy. It was elegant. It was beautiful, and it should not work with human technology. The principles were too different. The approaches were too opposite. Every other engineer who tried had failed because they tried to copy the Valori exactly. Taiho did something different. He did not copy. He adapted. He took the Valori engine core and connected it to human systems. He built a power regulator from Earth technology that could feed the alien engine exactly what it needed. He created a control interface that translated human commands into Valori functions. He was not replacing the Valori technology. He was talking to it in a language it could understand. "This is insane," Boris said, watching him work one day. She had been visiting more often, bringing supplies and pretending she was not curious. "You are mixing technologies from two species that have nothing in common." "We have one thing in common," Taiho said without looking up. "We both want to fly." On the 5th month, the engine was ready for testing. They did it at night when fewer ships were nearby. Taiho sat in the control room he had built from scrap metal and hope. Yuna watched the power systems. Geo monitored the engine readings. Bora waited outside, ready to run if everything exploded. Taiho pressed the activation switch. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship began to hum. A soft sound like music, coming from somewhere deep inside. The lights turned on, not the harsh lights of human ships, but a gentle glow that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The air changed. It felt cleaner, fresher. The engine was alive. "Readings are stable," Geo said, her voice shaking with excitement. "The power consumption is... I do not believe this. It is using almost nothing." Taiho felt tears on his face. He wiped them away quickly, but Yuna saw. "It works," she said softly. "It actually works." They ran tests for 3 hours. The engine performed perfectly. Better than perfectly. The hybrid design was more efficient than either human or Valori technology alone. It was something new. Something that had never existed before. But they were not careful enough. The engine activated something else. A signal. A beacon built into the ship that announced to the galaxy. "The test has been passed." 3 sectors away, consortium sensors detected the signal. Admiral Kreth, commander of the 3rd Fleet, received the report on his flagship. He was Morvani, tall and gray-skinned, with cold eyes that had watched 1,000 battles. He read the report twice. "A human," he said slowly. "A human-activated Valori technology." "It seems impossible," his officer said. "Yes," Admiral Kreth agreed. "It does." He set down the report and looked out the window at the stars. "Change course. We are going to Kellen 7, sir." "That is a junkyard at the edge of nowhere." "Not anymore," the Admiral said. "Now it is the most important place in the galaxy." The fleet began to move. 12 warships, the finest in the consortium navy. They would arrive at Kellen 7 in 12 days. In the junkyard, Taiho and his friends celebrated their success. They did not know that everything was about to change. They did not know that the galaxy was coming for them. The celebration did not last long. Yuna was the first to notice. She was checking the communication systems when she saw something strange. A lot of ship signals were moving in the same direction. Toward them. "Taiho," she said quietly. "We have a problem." She showed him the data. 12 large signals. Military formation. Moving fast. Consortium fleet, Bora said, looking over their shoulders. Her face went pale. That is not a patrol. That is an invasion force. They had 8 days before the fleet arrived. 8 days to decide what to do. We can run, Bora suggested. The ship works. We can leave before they get here. And go where? Geo asked. The consortium controls most of the galaxy. There is nowhere to hide. Tai-Ho stayed quiet. He was thinking. Always thinking. On the 3rd day, a small ship arrived at Kellen 7. Not a warship. A diplomatic vessel. When it landed, a man stepped out wearing expensive clothes and carrying himself like someone important. Tai-Ho recognized him immediately. The face was older. The eyes were harder, but he would know his own brother anywhere. Sun-Ho, he said. Hello, brother. Sun-Ho looked around the junkyard with distaste. You have fallen far. I was pushed. You were stubborn. You could have cooperated. I could have been a thief. The brothers stared at each other. 3 years of silence stood between them like a wall. Sun-Ho worked for the consortium now. He was a diplomat, helping humans survive in a galaxy that did not respect them. He believed in cooperation. Tai-Ho believed in independence. They had argued about this before Tai-Ho fled Earth. They had not spoken since. I am here to offer a deal, Sun-Ho said. Give the consortium the ship and your research. In return, you receive full citizenship in Morvani territory, legal protection, a new life, and humanity? Humanity benefits from good relations with the consortium. Humanity becomes more dependent on masters who despise us. Humanity survives, Sun-Ho said, his voice rising. That is what matters. We are a small species in a big galaxy. We cannot fight everyone. Eunice stepped forward. We are not fighting everyone. We are just refusing to meal. Sun-Ho looked at her, then back at Tai-Ho. You have 5 days to decide. When the fleet arrives, the offer ends. He turned to leave, then stopped. Brother, please. I am trying to save your life. I know, Tai-Ho said. But some things are worth more than living. Sun-Ho left. The diplomatic ship rose into the sky and disappeared. That night, Yuna did something dangerous. She hacked into the consortium military communications. It took hours and almost got them killed twice. But she found what she was looking for. They are lying, she told the group. The deal is fake. Look at these orders. She showed them the messages. After obtaining Tai-Ho's research, the consortium planned to execute him. They would claim he resisted arrest. His work would be classified and hidden. Humans would never benefit from it. They are afraid, Geo said softly. A Class D species succeeded where everyone else failed. They cannot let that story spread. Then we make the story too big to hide, Tai-Ho said. Everyone looked at him. Geo, your research says there are more Valori test ships across the galaxy. Is that true? Yes, dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. If we prove our ship works, really prove it in a way the whole galaxy sees, other species might try to activate their own ships. The consortium cannot control all of them. They control the weapons, Bora pointed out. But not the people. Tai-Ho stood up and began pacing. The consortium rules through power and through fear. They convince everyone that the natural order cannot be changed, that the strong will always control the weak. If we show them that a junkyard human can match their technology, that order breaks. How do we prove it? Yuna asked. Tai-Ho smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had just thought of something crazy. We challenged them to a race. The room went silent. Our ship against their fastest ship. Public. Broadcast to the entire galaxy. If we win, they leave humanity alone. If we lose, they get everything. That is insane, Bora said. That is the point. They will accept because they think they will win easily. They will accept because refusing would make them look afraid. And if they cheat? Geo asked. They might. But they will not be able to hide it with the whole galaxy watching. The next morning, Taiho sent a message to the consortium fleet. It was short and simple. I challenge your fastest ship to a race through the shattered expanse. The galaxy will watch. If your technology is superior, prove it. Unless you are afraid of a Class D species in a junk pile ship. Admiral Kreth received the message on his flagship. His officers expected him to be angry. Instead, he laughed. The human has courage, he admitted. Foolish courage, but courage. He thought for a moment. Accept the challenge. Sir, is that wise? If we lose, we will not lose. Our ship has 3 reactors and the best pilots in the fleet. His ship is made of garbage. The Admiral smiled coldly. Let the galaxy watch. Let them see what happens when lesser species forget their place. The race was announced across every network in the galaxy. For the first time in history, everyone was watching a human. What they did not know was that Taiho had already finished the ship 2 days ago. He had spent the extra time running secret tests, improving systems, finding problems and fixing them. The consortium thought they were racing against a desperate amateur. They were wrong. In his workshop, Taiho prepared for the fight of his life. Yuna had named the ship herself, painting the words on the hull in bright colors. The makeshift. It was a good name. It was a human name. It meant something built from nothing, held together by cleverness and will. Tomorrow, it would fly against the greatest technology in the galaxy. Tomorrow, everything would change. The shattered expanse was the most dangerous place in the known galaxy. Long ago, 2 stars had collided here. The explosion left behind a field of broken planets, floating rocks, and strange pockets of twisted gravity. Ships that entered often never came out. It was the perfect place for a race that would decide the future of humanity. On the day of the race, over 1 billion beings watched on screens across the galaxy. They saw 2 ships floating at the starting point. One was massive, sleek, and beautiful. The Dominion's Edge, pride of the consortium fleet, painted in silver and gold. The other looked like someone had glued random pieces of metal together and hoped for the best. The betting odds were 200 to 1 against the human. Inside the makeshift, Taiho sat in the pilot's seat. Yuna was beside him, watching the systems. Geo monitored the engine from the back. Bora had wanted to come, but someone needed to stay behind. She had hugged each of them before they left. Try not to die, she had said. I hate funerals. Now they were here, waiting for the signal to start. Are you afraid? Yuna asked quietly. Yes, Taiho admitted. But I have been afraid before. It never stopped me. The signal came. A bright flash of light from the race officials. Both ships exploded forward. The Dominion's Edge took an immediate lead. Its 3 massive reactors roared with power, pushing it through space like a missile. The ship blasted through the first asteroid field, using energy shields to shove rocks aside. It was not graceful. It was force. The makeshift fell behind. From the outside, it looked like it was already losing. But inside, Taiho was smiling. They are using their power too fast, he said. They think this race is about speed. It is not. It is about survival. The shattered expanse was not just dangerous because of the rocks. The real threat was the gravity pockets. Twisted areas of space where the old star's death had left permanent scars. Ships that flew into them without care would be crushed or thrown off course. The consortium ship was fighting against these forces with raw energy. Taiho was using a different method. The Valori had designed their ships to work with gravity, not against it. Taiho had studied this principle for months. Now he put it into practice. When the makeshift approached a gravity pocket, it did not resist. It turned into the pole, letting the twisted space grab it and spin it forward like a stone from a slingshot. "Gravity assist complete," Yuna announced. "We gained 12% velocity without using any fuel." They did it again. And again. Each time, the makeshift moved faster while the Dominion's edge burned more and more power fighting the environment. Halfway through the race, the impossible happened. The ships were even. On his flagship, Admiral Kreth watched with growing concern. How is this possible? Their ship should be falling apart. "The human is using the gravity fields," his navigator reported. "He is letting them push him forward. Then do the same." "We cannot, sir. Our ship is too heavy. Too powerful. The maneuver would tear us apart." Admiral Kreth stared at the screen. For the first time, he felt something he had not felt in many years. Doubt. Then disaster struck. The Dominion's edge flew too close to a massive gravity pocket. The ship's shields held, but the pull was too strong. It began to spiral, caught like an insect in a spider's web. The engines fired at maximum power, but they could not break free. The ship was being slowly crushed. Inside the makeshift, alarms screamed. "They are caught," Geo said. "The gravity well is pulling them in. At this rate, they will be destroyed in 12 minutes. Yuna looked at the navigation screen. "If we keep going, we win. The finish line is clear." Taiho said nothing. His hands rested on the controls. His eyes were on the struggling consortium ship. "Taiho?" Yuna asked. "We should go. This is our chance." They still did not move. "They called us primitive," Yuna continued. "They were going to kill you. They have spent centuries looking down on our species. If we save them, we might lose. We might lose everything." "I know," Taiho said softly. He turned the makeshift around. The ship flew toward the gravity well instead of away from it. Carefully, precisely, Taiho navigated the twisted space. He found a path where the gravity forces balanced each other. Then he positioned the makeshift's engines to create a counterforce, opening a small corridor of stable space. Dominion's edge. He broadcast on open channels. "Follow my signal. I am creating an exit path. You have 3 minutes." There was silence from the consortium ship. Then a voice came through, heavy with disbelief. It was Admiral Kreth himself. "Why?" "You were winning. Because winning means nothing if we become like you to do it." The Dominion's edge fired its engines and flew toward the corridor. It was close. So close. The gravity well grabbed at the ship, trying to pull it back. But the path held. The consortium vessel burst free, damaged but alive. For a moment, both ships floated in space. "Thank you," Admiral Kreth said. The words sounded strange coming from him. He had never thanked a human before. "Do not thank me yet," Taiho replied. "We still have a race to finish." Both ships turned toward the finish line. The delay had cost the makeshift its lead. The Dominion's edge was beside it now, matching speed. But the consortium ship was hurt. Its shields were weakened. Its engines were overheated from fighting the gravity well. It could not push as hard as before. The final stretch was filled with asteroid fragments, spinning rocks the size of buildings. The Dominion's edge tried to blast through them with shields, but the power drain was too much. It slowed. The makeshift danced. There was no other word for it. Taiho flew through impossible gaps, spinning between rocks that would have destroyed any normal ship. The Valori design responded to his touch like it was reading his mind. Every movement was perfect. Every turn was exact. The ship moved like water flowing through cracks. Yuna held her breath. Geo closed her eyes, and Taiho flew like he had been born for this moment. The finish line appeared ahead, a circle of lights marking the end of the course. Both ships raced toward it. The makeshift crossed first. Across the galaxy, a billion beings went silent. Then, slowly, the silence turned to noise, cheering, screaming, disbelief on 100 worlds. People who had been told humans were primitive watched the replay again and again. A junkyard human in a garbage ship had just defeated the greatest technology in the galaxy, and he had done it with mercy. Inside the makeshift, Yuna grabbed her brother and hugged him so hard he could not breathe. "You crazy, wonderful fool," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. Outside, the Dominion's edge floated quietly. Inside, Admiral Kreth stared at his screen for a long time. Something had changed in him. He did not know what it was yet, but he knew he would never see humans the same way again. The race was over. Everything else was just beginning. The galaxy was not the same after the race. For 3 days, the only thing anyone talked about was the human who won. News networks played the footage endlessly. Analysts debated what it meant. Some said it was luck. Some said the consortium had lost on purpose. But most people knew the truth. They had seen it with their own eyes. A small species had done the impossible, and they had done it with kindness. Admiral Kreth honored the agreement. He had no choice. The whole galaxy was watching. When he returned to consortium headquarters, some officials wanted to ignore the deal and attack anyway. Kreth refused. "I gave my word," he said. "That still means something to me, even if it means nothing to you." He was removed from command the next week, but he did not care. Something had changed inside him when that human ship circled back to save his crew. He had been taught all his life that lesser species were selfish, primitive, and cruel. The human had proven him wrong. It was uncomfortable. It was confusing. And somehow, it was beautiful. Taiho did something that shocked everyone even more than winning the race. He shared his technology. Not sold, shared, freely. He published everything. The hybrid engine designs, the power regulation systems, the translation interfaces that made Valori technology work with other species' machines. He sent the data to every corner of the galaxy, to anyone who wanted it. "You could have been rich," Sunho said when he heard the news. He had come back to Callan 7, alone this time, without diplomatic papers or official permission. "You could have named any price." "The Valori left their technology as a test," Taiho replied. "A test of worth. If I hoard it for profit, I fail the test. The whole point is that knowledge should be shared." Sunho was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something he had not done since they were children. He hugged his brother. "I was wrong," he said. "About cooperation. About survival. About you. I thought bending was the only way to not break. But you showed me there is another way. Standing straight." Sunho resigned from his consortium position the next day. He started working on a new kind of human embassy, one based on partnership instead of submission. It was hard work. Many humans still thought cooperation meant obedience. But slowly, things began to change. Geo published her research on the Valori. She explained the ascension, the tests, the philosophy behind their gift. And she revealed the locations of other Valori ships hidden across the galaxy. Within months, other species began finding them, activating them. Not all succeeded. The ships only responded to those who approached them correctly, with curiosity instead of greed, with understanding instead of force. But some did succeed. Slowly, the consortium's monopoly on advanced technology began to crack. Yuna and Bora went into business together. They started running trade routes, but not carrying goods. They carried engineers. Humans who had learned from Taiho's example, who could help other species adapt a new technology to their own needs. The human method, people called it. Looking at problems differently. Finding solutions in unexpected places. We are not smarter than other species, Yuna would explain to curious aliens. We just give up slower. The Galactic Council invited Taiho to speak. It was the first time a human had ever addressed that body. He stood in a vast chamber, surrounded by representatives from thousands of species, beings who had dismissed humanity for centuries. He spoke simply. He always did. You measured us by our lifespans and found us brief. By our technology and found us primitive. By our empires and found us small. But you never measured our creativity, our stubbornness, our refusal to accept that something cannot be done simply because it has never been done. He paused, looking around the room. We do not build starships because we are great. We become great because we dare to build them. From whatever scraps the universe leaves us. That is the human way. That is what we offer the galaxy. Not power. Not conquest. Just the stubborn belief that tomorrow can be better than today. The chamber was silent when he finished. Then, slowly, applause began. Not from everyone. Some species still clung to old prejudices. But from many. From enough. Things did not change overnight. They never do. The consortium still held power. Prejudice against humans still existed. Problems still needed solving. Battles still needed fighting. But the direction had shifted. For the first time, humanity was not just surviving in the galaxy. It was contributing, leading, inspiring. Taiho went home to Kellen 7. The junkyard was different now. It was still a junkyard, still floating in the darkness at the edge of space. But it was no longer abandoned. Ships came and went constantly. Young beings from dozens of species arrived to study at the engineering academy that had grown around Taiho's workshop. They came to learn the human method. How to see potential in broken things. How to mix the unmixable. How to refuse to give up. Taiho walked through the scrap fields where it had all begun. The metal shapes were familiar. The silence was comfortable. He had been an exile here once. A forgotten man in a forgotten place. Now he was something else. A symbol. A teacher. A legend. He found a piece of broken machinery half buried in debris. Old. Useless. Ready for recycling. He picked it up and turned it over in his hands, studying the shape, imagining possibilities. Somewhere out there, another impossible thing was waiting to be built. And one human engineer was ready to try again. Yuna found him there an hour later, sitting on a pile of scrap, sketching designs in a notebook. New project? She asked. Always, he said without looking up. She sat down beside him, watching the stars. The galaxy was big and strange and full of wonders they had not yet seen. What is it this time? Taiho smiled. The same smile he had worn the day he found the Valori ship. The smile of someone who saw something no one else could see. Something better, he said. And in the darkness of space, surrounded by broken things and endless possibility, the future began again. The end.